If you actually look closely at these teeth, these are some serious fangs that are growing here. Okay, so I've got a little story to tell you guys today, but before I do that, we're taking the ducks to the pond. So we've been experiencing like a January thaw these last couple of days, and we're like in the mid upper 40s. We've had a lot of rain, and so that means actually our pond has started to melt. And so that means our ducks get to be part of the Polar Bear Club. So I'm walking right in through the two automatic double doors, and I'm hit with this wave of fluorescent light bulbs. All the produce is laid out there perfectly and orderly. Every single apple looks the same. Every single banana looks bright yellow. There's a mountain of avocados, and we live several thousand miles away from anywhere where there would actually be avocados. But I had to walk into our local supermarket on behalf of my wife. She had sent me there on an errand, a task, something I didn't want to have to do, but out of sheer love for her, I was like, all right, I'll go and do it. And since I was going on a weekend day, like they were exceptionally crowded, and as I was walking around with my little green basket in hand, walking up and down the aisles looking for the item, and I really didn't want to buy this item. And so I continue on my way, walking up and down the aisles, and these two older ladies are barricading the coffee and tea aisle with their shopping carts parked like police cruisers who are meeting in a vacant parking lot, and they're gabbing away about this and that. And so I have to politely go and ask these two older ladies to part ways so that I may make it through the aisle and continue on my way on the hunt for this silly item that my wife is looking for. And then finally, after much wandering and much searching, I find the peanut butter and jelly aisle, and I scour the rack of items on the peanut butter and jelly aisle, and I'm looking at the jams, and I'm looking through the jams. And now my wife she's looking for low sugar raspberry jam with seeds. And so I'm looking up and down the shelves for this raspberry jam, hoping I can find it. And I finally stumble on the low sugar strawberry jam, but they don't have raspberry jam. And so after searching and searching for the right type of jam, I ended up not finding exactly the right one. And I ended up having to settle for a regular raspberry jam with seeds.
Just continue to live that bad and bougie lifestyle.
So defeated, I took the jam, tossed it into my little green shopping basket. While I was there, I grabbed a couple of other things like toothpaste and almond butter and I don't remember what else, and tossed them into my basket. And then I finally made it into the express checkout, 15 items or less line, and waited for my turn. And I sort of checked out and was just kind of staring at my phone, not really paying attention with what's going on around me, waiting for my turn in line. When it finally got to be my turn, I walked up to the register, plunked my basket onto the counter, and started to take out my items. And the woman working the register was this older woman, probably in her 60s, maybe early 70s, white curly hair. And as I started to take my items out of the basket, she looked at me dead in the eye and said, "Is there a sign on my face that says holes need to come to my line?" And I was sort of like taken back by it, right? And she said the full word, and I didn't even know what to make of this. And so I turned and looked at her, just sort of shocked, and said, "Excuse me?" And she said, "Is there a sign on my face that says holes need to come to my line?" You know, I've been known to drop my fair share of George Carlin words over the years, but I do try to limit the amount of cussing I do in public these days. And I was also very confused by her statement, because here I was in her line and she was saying this to me, and apparently she was calling me an a-hole. And I didn't even think I'd done anything. I mean, yeah, sure, I wasn't looking my friendliest, most polite and chipper, and I wasn't smiling, and I'd been staring at my phone for 5 minutes and completely ignoring the world around me. But I didn't even think I'd done anything really egregious. I looked down at my basket and couldn't tell if there was something offensive inside the basket, but I highly doubted that this older woman would be offended by raspberry jelly, almond butter, and toothpaste. And so after a pause and silence of maybe 3 seconds, but I swear it felt like it was about 3 minutes, in my most polite voice possible, I said to her, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I just don't understand. Did I do something wrong?" And a big smile appeared on her face, and she said, "No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about that guy." And she pointed off to the side, and I looked, and apparently the gentleman who had just been in her line was in a shouting match with the manager of the supermarket. Apparently this guy was trying to use some buy 10 for $1 coupon, and it wasn't working, and he was getting all up in arms, and the manager was trying to calm him down, but the more the manager tried to calm him down, the louder and louder this guy yelled. And I was so busy staring at my glowing rectangle that I had no idea what was even going on. And so when I kind of put all this together, I realized that I had been a total doofus, and I had been so checked out from the world around me, I'd missed that. And so I asked the cashier what happened, and she explained the situation to me and told me how the guy was like off his rocker and seemed kind of drunk, and he even had threatened to punch her in the face. And I said, "Oh, geez, ma'am, I'm sorry to hear that you had to go through that, but don't worry, I'm not that big an a-hole." And we both ended up having a pretty good chuckle about the whole thing. But I guess the reason I tell you guys this whole anecdote is because I find that I can check out so much. It's a good thing for me to realize that I should probably spend more time paying attention to the world around me and the things going on around me. So just a couple minutes ago, Toby Dog and I were actually taking a walk all around the pasture. He and I like to sometimes go on these nice long walks all the way around the farm. It's a good way to just spend some time with him, work on his training, just relax. While we were walking around, I actually stumbled upon this. Look at that, huh? It's at first when I saw it, it was like I was actually looking at it from behind like this, and I thought it was like pelvis or something. But then as I looked closer, I realized it's a jawbone. And so what it is it's actually the jawbone of a deer. Like you can actually still see even like the gristle and meat still on here. It must have gotten picked up by a coyote and dragged to where it was. I looked all over the place and tried to find any more bones, but this was the only thing I found. Look, you can even kind of see the pink flesh is still in the mouth on the jawbone there. I don't know, my guess is some sort of coyote must have dragged it out and had been working on it, and it just found its way into the middle of the upper pasture there. I don't know, probably about 500-600 yards from where we're standing right now. And it just, I don't know, it was kind of a cool find. I mean, and also take a look at these teeth, huh? You can kind of see even they're like sort of rotting. So I'm guessing this was like an older deer that died. I know, some of you guys are probably saying, like, why are you showing me these bones? Like, that's not all that interesting, dude. But I guess the reason I bring it up is just when I'm out there walking around, observing the world around me, you can find some incredible and fascinating things. And I feel like I need to take that lesson and apply it more to my life all over the place, especially off farm. Because I spend a lot of time observing things while I'm here on the farm, but when I'm off farm, I can be like tunnel vision and completely tuned out. And so, you know, for what it's worth, it's always good to stop and look around and see what you can find.
This is definitely going on YouTube. I think he needs snow tires.
Okay guys, I'm back. I just wanted to add a quick little epilogue to what you just saw. So as I mentioned earlier, I found this bone while taking Toby for a walk. It was just standing out there in the pasture, no prints that I could really recognize around it. And I had assumed that this was a deer jaw that a coyote had dragged out and left there. So I ended up posting a couple pictures of this jawbone on Instagram, and immediately several friends said, whoa, 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 dude, that's no deer bone, that's a pig bone. And I kind of started to look at it closer, and I looked online for examples of deer bones and pig bones. And while they have somewhat of a similar general shape, the deer bone is much narrower down here. And on top of it all, right, if you actually look closely at these teeth, these are some serious fangs that are growing here, which would suggest that that's not the type of tooth that a deer has. So the question then becomes, well, what the heck is a pig bone doing in the middle of my pasture? It's not like I raise pigs, none of my neighbors raise pigs, and so it's kind of got me wondering. A couple of theories that were floated out there, you know, so there is this farm, I don't know, a little ways away from us, called Sugar Mountain, I believe, and they have a system where they free range pigs on their mountain, and they fence them in, but they let them free range within there. And so one theory that was floated out there was this is the remains of one of those pigs as it migrated several miles away and ended up somehow dead on our farm. But if I scratch the surface of that one, it doesn't make sense. I could never picture how a pig could get that far going completely undetected to end up here. So that one in and of itself didn't quite seem feasible. The next hypothesis though made a lot of sense. So I have several friends around here who raise pigs. I'm talking a few miles away, like, you know, 3 or 4 miles, or actually I think one of them is about 2 miles. So the theory there is it actually might be one of their pigs. So it's quite feasible that a coyote could have dug this thing up from a compost pile, or maybe taken it from a dog, wandered it around, brought it around, and ultimately ended up leaving it in our pasture. So that's the current working theory I've got. I'm gonna check out a few things to find out if that is actually the case. But again, I think it all speaks to the power and benefit of stopping and observing what's going on, paying attention to your surroundings, and noticing the little things that seem out of place. It makes for a much more rewarding life. Isn't that right, Toby Dog? Isn't that right, Toby Dog? I know, you want to eat this, don't you? Woo. Hi.